All right, let me get to my guests. The Honorable Angeline Osege. She's the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning, Joel.
We also have with us the Honorable Gerald Karuhanga. He's the deputy chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's not every day that we have a speaker and a deputy speaker on the same platform, but here at Morning at 10 TV we are able to do it. Honorable Osege, your committee has been kind of quiet, but we know that a lot of work has been going on. What have you people been up to?
Well, we were handling the report of 2014-15. We've produced a report on the health sector. We are handling the other sectors, and we hope to get done with them by end of this month. And then we can start on the current report of 2015-16. Right now, we are concluding 2014-15 by members going to the embassies. So we have teams that are going out. When they return, other teams will go. When we finish, then we embark on the new report. We have almost done it, and then after that, we are going to go back to the backlog. We hope that by the end of this year, we shall not be talking about backlog anymore in PAC.
Honorable Karuhanga, it's a ritual of sorts. It's your duty anyway as the Public Accounts Committee, for that matter as Parliament, to scrutinize government, give oversight, and many times you do that through the report of the Auditor General. And some feel it's just a ritual. The report comes, you look at it, study it, invite those that are implicated, grill them, and we move on swiftly. The next year's report will have similar ills or even worse. And so the question is your work not bearing any fruit as a Public Accounts Committee? Because one would expect that we should see a lessening of some of the ills, you know, the monies that are mismanaged, the monies that are not accounted for, and all these different things.
Well, our work is very critical. Public accountability, I think, is one of those very important facets of democratic governance. However, our work can only be very productive if there is cooperation from the executive. So the process is the Auditor General audits all entities in government, and then he brings the report to Parliament. The Speaker forwards it to the Public Accounts Committee, and then this report, we scrutinize it, we invite witnesses, and these are the different accounting officers. And then we forward it back to Parliament, having agreed on certain positions, which we normally call recommendations. And then, at that point, it's again sent back to executive to different officers for action. Now, these officers could be the Director of Public Prosecutions, could be the IGG, it could be the PSST, that is the Permanent Secretary, Secretary of the Treasury or Minister, or the PS Minister of Finance. And basically, these are supposed to implement this report. So it's quite unfortunate that for so many years we do lots of this work with passion, commitment, and really sometimes extraordinary work. Sometimes we leave past midnight, contrary to what people actually know out there. Now, that can only change if there is real commitment from the executive. So however, we're trying to change approach and say it is now time to begin auditing these particular individuals in government who are supposed to implement the Public Accounts Committee report, which is the report of Parliament.
Honorable Osege, you are now handling the sales sector, and let's say a couple of things. There's monies that are undeclared, the source of funding, there's monies that have not been refunded yet. How grim is the picture? Because health is very critical. So if we hear that money is not being utilized well, there's money that are supposed to have been refunded. I see, you know, Global Fund money that to date has not been refunded. How bad are things?
It is as bad as you see the sector's performance, because while we think that there is underfunding, the little that is given to the sector is also not well utilized. So the picture is as bad as you see the performance of the sector. There is a lot of impunity in the way public officials are doing their work and using government money. That is why, if you look into that report, we said, along the way we said, I think it's about time that we stopped recycling accounting officers. Because these people do one thing in one ministry, in one agency, they are transferred to another. You know, with such a bad record, with such a bad report from Public Accounts Committee, these persons are still in circulation within government. And we think that that is what is causing this kind of bad performance, because it brings impunity. It doesn't matter what you recommend, they still take it for granted. They think nothing will happen after all. And we think that this goes back to the way these fellows are appointed. Who is appointed to what office? What is their qualification? Is it because of their qualification that they are there, or is it because they know somebody? So all these things need to be looked into, and we only pray that the executive is able to implement our recommendations, because if it did, by now it would be far much better.
How do we go beyond, and it's important to pray, but how do we crack the whip? What are the provisions? He's a lawyer, and I'm sure there's several lawyers on the committee. How do we get the executive, not by pleading and begging them to do some of these things, yeah, but as Parliament, you have got authority, one would think. So is it difficult to exercise that authority? Where does the buck stop?
No, it is provided for that the executive is supposed to do what they call a treasury memorandum. After we've done our report and is sent to them, the feedback is supposed to be in form of a treasury memorandum, which is supposed to be audited by the Auditor General. Now, PAC will look at that report again and present it to the House. Now, the final outcome is supposed to determine what is going to come in the subsequent budget, because it's supposed to feed into the subsequent budget. But for a long time, this has not been happening. Treasury memoranda have not been coming. I think we just saw a few towards the end of last year, and so it doesn't complete the accountability cycle. What we are trying to do now is to push a different way, a different angle. We are talking of shaming and naming these bad performing accounting officers. We attach the kinds of monies that they have maybe not utilized well and so on. Let it be known by the public. Because even when Parliament vets some of these officers, they should have the background that this officer has this against their name. What moral ground will they have to continue maintaining officers with such bad record? So we are trying ways and means on our own, but also in the law it is provided. Now, if an accounting officer has misbehaved, the PSST, the secretary to the treasurer, what do they call them? The PSST has the authority to discipline them. And in some of our recommendations, yes. And then there is the Treasurer General. That is for the party. For parties.
Yeah, the Accountant
yes,
General.
the Accountant General, sorry. He is also supposed to play a role. Now, all these people can pick up these issues and make sure these fellows are disciplined. But still, the snag is that they are not appointed on merit, many of them.
Honorable Karuhanga, there's two phases to this. Some would say that, one, of course, even the money that is availed to the health sector is not well utilized, it's not well accounted for and the like. But then there are others that will say for the sick health sector, as many will describe it today, because there's not very good funding that goes therein, and that's why we're not able to pay our doctors better, buy medicines as and when they are needed, the particular kinds, and then do all the work that needs to be done, and Parliament is the one that should appropriate this.
About funding the health sector, it is true the funds may not be adequate. However, it is also true that there is complete, almost total abuse of funds in the health sector. Now, it is also known to all of us that our health sector probably is much sick, is more of a patient than probably the patients themselves. Now, last year alone, the health sector got about 2 trillion shillings from government of Uganda, from the taxpayers. Now, that's minus money that comes in form of donations. And a quick example, just the United States alone puts in another 1 trillion shillings in our health sector. So you can imagine a sector that has close to about 4 trillion shillings. And you hardly have any service delivery. Now, the challenge is, one, management. The mismanagement of the resources in the health sector, as you will see in our report and in so many other reports, is unbelievable. So there was a prioritization. You can't imagine that even as needy as our circumstances are, that you'll find the 5.9 billion of unutilized funds. They don't even spend the money we give them.
What happens in those cases when money is unutilized? Is it a question? Because I've heard sometimes they will say, well, we didn't have the expertise to make use of it, or the things we needed to buy we are not,
in this particular case,
in
this particular case, they couldn't even explain it away in any way. They just couldn't give us any adding up information. And in most cases, this is motivated by the fact that, how letters come to tables and they delay on one's table, largely because they are waiting for the other end to suggest ways on how they become beneficiaries in form of a CAC envelope. So normally it's not because this money is too much, or it's not because it's just because of total mismanagement, and it's basically corruption. So because somebody thinks, oh, how much of it is mine, and that has become a trend. Then you have money that is advanced to individuals, about 600 million and plus, and that's sampling a few entities, because health has about, in PAC we cover about 16 entities. Those are the regional hospitals and Ministry of Health. Now, even in those, you find money advanced to individuals, they don't account for it, and just over 600 million shillings. You have money that you don't have over 2 billion shillings. They can't even declare the source of this money, meaning there is money that even we don't see. They get from all sorts of donations, and they don't declare. So this, and what is killing us largely is impunity. You'll do it. PAC will come, do the accountability, and then the worst that will happen to you is that you'll be moved from one ministry to another. That's what we've seen. And we're saying, no, this time we want to see accounting officers fired.
Honorable Sege, you are handling 2014-2015, and you said that after that you'll be dealing with the backlog, and one would think that's probably part of the problem, because if these people that are speculating with this money, they know that by the time you catch up with them, they've moved 5 steps ahead. We are dealing with backlog, and yet now we are in 2017, so they are dealing with this. They know by the time you get to 2017, it will probably be 2020. How do we make sure how do we make this watertight, and also on the mark? Because if I know by the time you get to this particular year for auditing, it will be 3 years away, I can do whatever it is that I want to. I might not even be in that ministry, or whatever the case might be.
Now, first of all, the law provides that it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you're in the service of government, you can still come and account. You are still supposed to account. But two, the other agencies of accountability, like the Inspector General, like the Public Prosecutor, and others, have the leeway to prosecute these people, because when the Auditor General produces his report, he serves them. They don't have to wait for the report of PAC for them to act. So the law assumes that they also pick up certain things even before PAC has done their report. But we normally don't see that. I think many of them are complaining of underfunding, but also there is very poor performance due to other reasons, many other reasons. And sometimes even when it is forwarded, the case is forwarded to them, it is not expeditiously handled. A case in point is the pension scam in local government. It had to take PAC of the 9th Parliament to recall that file and say, these people, there is overwhelming evidence, they must be taken to court. But what had happened with the public prosecutor, they had been acquitted. They said they had no case to answer. Now, the corruption, the impunity, the patronage in the way people are appointed is a big problem. Because somebody knows ahead there where I'm supposed to go, there is my uncle. He's not going to let me go down. There is my auntie. They are not going to look at the law. They are going to protect me. So that is where we have a problem. But everything else is provided for in the law, except that we are not implementing what we are supposed to implement.
How about the backlog, Honorable Karuhanga? How do we make sure your committee moves a lot quicker than it probably is doing? Is it a problem of, I don't know, MPs within your committee are not doing what they should be doing?
Well, it's actually on the contrary, because I think we really work extra hard. We spend lots of more time. Now, we are trying to deal with backlog. For the first time, Parliament is going to see a Public Accounts Committee with no backlog. And the way we are doing it, and thanks for our able chairperson, very competent. The way we are doing it is we separated because there were so many past years which were not covered. So that we're handling it in a rather technical way, in a lump sum way, and then dealing straight with the current years. Now, backlog large also was a reason of some really PAC was overwhelmed with work. So we had to devise means and say, okay, we need to share work. And so probably that's why you see maybe UNRA is come to PAC. So that is now going to cost us. It was largely our initiative and our understanding with the other committee on state enterprises and commissions to ensure that we share work so that it's not only PAC doing almost 80–70% of the work. And so that has helped in many ways, because now you see other committees also being out there doing lots of work. Now, still on implementation, something in the law that is provided for called the parliamentary prosecutor. I think it is high time this time around the executive appreciated that let there be a parliamentary prosecutor. It is in the law. They have always had a reservation about it because they think that will really empower Parliament, because then these reports we release, you will see people being prosecuted and they will fund our money, and that will curb corruption. Right now what we have is trying to be persuasive, indeed to try to plead with the executive, though in some cases they have also realized that, oh, this is so bad and they need to do something, just like in the pension scam as was mentioned. So it has got to take our efforts, all of us, members of the public, even colleagues in the religious sector, to press government and say, look, we need to do something about corruption. And this is not partisan. When you lose money, when you go to hospital and you don't find a medical doctor or a nurse, it doesn't matter which political party you belong to. Your patient or yourself will suffer. So we have got to begin getting some of these issues beyond the partisan lines and say, this is our country, we must fix it.
Honorable Sege, you have been in PAC for how long now?
Less than a year yet.
Less than a year. So you do 2.5 years, and then there can be a reshuffle of sorts, yeah?
Yeah.
So what would you say, in the period that you have been at the helm, these are the milestones, and what work are you focusing on going forward for the remaining time?
We think we need to clear backlog. If we are changed to other committees, the next committee should find it easier. They should begin from the up-to-date report. And then we can easily be able to follow up on the actions on our recommendations. But also in the amendment of our rules, we are thinking that the time to run a committee for 2.5 years is not adequate for somebody to be able to do so much. But within that time, we still think that we are going to be able to cover. We, like Gerald said, we are going to, for the first time here, that there is no more backlog in PAC, and I think that is a plus. And I want to thank members because they are very committed. We work every day of the week, from Monday to Friday. While others are going on recess, we are going to be sitting as PAC, because that is the only way we are going to be able to cover what we need to cover. The reports that are coming on are about 8 more, and then we shall be done with 2014-15. They are now in draft form. By the time we table them, we shall be done. And then you will see heads rolling.
Heads rolling. We hope the heads will eventually roll. Thank you for joining us, Honorable Angeline Oseke, Chairperson of PAC, and the Honorable Gerald Karuhanga, Deputy Chairperson. We hope that heads will roll.
Certainly, you will see action.
All right, let's wait and see action. Coming up is my opinion.